Have you ever stopped and wondered what it really costs to run a business? I mean, really? It's one of the most basic questions you can ask, and the answer is all wrapped up in something called a cost structure. And listen, this isn't just for the accountants. Understanding this is your key to making smart moves and, honestly, knowing if your business is truly healthy. So stick around and we're gonna break it all down.
All right, so here's the game plan. First, we're going to start with a really simple question to get our heads in the game. Then we'll dive into the two main kinds of costs. You've got your fixed and your variable. After that, we'll explore two different ways to look at your numbers, marginal costing and full costing. And we'll wrap it all up by figuring out when to use which method, because it all depends on the story you're trying to tell.
Okay, so to get right to the heart of all this, let's start with a really simple, practical problem that I think we can all wrap our heads around.
Seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? But, the answer is way more interesting than you might think. Are we just talking about the cost of the blank shirt and the ink? What about the rent you pay for your shop? Or what about your employee's salary? See, to really nail this down, we've got to understand how to sort our expenses into a couple of different buckets. And that leads us straight into the two fundamental flavors of cost that pretty much every business on the planet has to deal with. Getting this distinction right is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. So, first up, we have fixed costs. You can think of these as your constant background costs. Your monthly rent is the perfect example here. You've got to pay that rent whether you sell one t-shirt this month or 1,000. It's fixed, it's predictable, it doesn't budge no matter how busy you get. And on the flip side, you've got variable costs. Now, these guys are tied directly to your production. For every single t-shirt you decide to print, you have to buy a blank shirt, right? And you have to use some ink. So if you make more shirts, this cost goes up. If you make fewer, it goes down. It literally varies with your output. So here's the big takeaway, the thing you really need to remember. Fixed costs, they're the costs of just being in business, keeping the lights on, keeping the doors open. Variable costs, those are the costs of actually doing business, the expenses that pop up with every single thing you make and sell. That difference right there, it's everything. Okay, so now that we've got our two buckets for costs, let's look at the first cool thing we can do with this knowledge. It's a method called marginal costing, and its whole philosophy is about focusing on the cost of making just the next one. Marginal costing asks a really specific question. It asks, what will it cost me to produce just one more widget, one more t-shirt? And to get that answer, it does something radical. It completely ignores all your fixed costs. The thinking is, hey, your rent is already paid. It's a sunk cost. So the only new cost for making one extra shirt is that direct variable cost. So how do we figure this out? It's actually super simple. We only look at the costs that change because of this one shirt. So that's $3 for the blank tee and another $2 for the ink and printing. Boom. Our marginal cost is $5. Now that number is your floor. It is the absolute rock bottom price you could sell this one shirt for without actually losing money on it. But what if you need to see the whole chessboard? What if your goal isn't just to make one more shirt, but to set a price that covers all of your expenses in the long run? Well, for that, we need to pull the camera back a bit. And this is where full costing steps in. The name really says it all, right? This method takes every single cost, fixed and variable, and it spreads it out, allocating a little piece of the pie to every single unit you make. That's why it's also called absorption costing, because each product absorbs its fair share of the total overhead. Now look at how the picture totally changes here. We've still got our $5 variable cost, that hasn't changed, but now we're bringing that $2,000 rent back into the equation. If we plan to make 1,000 shirts this month, we just divide that rent by 1,000. That means each shirt has to absorb an extra $2 of fixed costs. All of a sudden, the full cost to make one t-shirt has jumped to $7. So wait a minute, we have two totally different methods, giving us two totally different costs for the exact same t-shirt, $5 versus $7. So which one's right? Well, the truth is, it completely depends on the story you need your numbers to tell you right now. The best way to think about this is like having different tools in a toolbox. Marginal costing, that's your go-to for short-term, in-the-moment decisions. Let's say a customer comes in and wants a special one-off order, but they'll only pay $6 a shirt. Marginal costing tells you, yeah, go for it, because your cost is only $5. But full costing, that's what you need for long-term survival. It answers the big question. If I sell all my shirts for $6, am I actually covering my rent and making a profit? And full costing tells you, no way, because your real cost is $7. You'd actually be losing $1 on every single shirt you sell.
So you see, neither method is better than the other. They just answer different questions. One helps you be nimble and seize an opportunity right in front of you. The other makes sure your business is sustainable and healthy for the long haul. The real skill is knowing which question you need an answer to. And now you have the tools. So the only question left is, what story do your numbers need to tell?